Before we move away from this session, I wanted to run down some of my lessons learned over the years, creating online courses. These are some of my takeaways that hopefully will make your life a bit easier as you set out on your new journey. First one is, make sure to plan out your entire course creation path and try to stick to that plan. So, we know that for a typical online course, there's 6 different phases: outlining, scripting, content creation, recording, editing and publishing. And for a course that's about 4 hours or less, you can expect this type of duration for each of the phases. For outlining, 1 week for scripting, 2 weeks for content creation, which is slideshow creation, 3 weeks for recording, 3 weeks editing, 2 weeks, and finally 1 week for publishing. So, for a course that's under 4 hours long, you can expect between 12 to 14 weeks duration. Now, this iteration is based on spending only 20 hours a week on your course creation efforts. Right? After all, we all have lives. We have family and work to deal with also. But I mean, obviously, you can adjust these durations if you're able to put more time, or the other way around and not able to put as much time each week towards. The important thing is to treat your course creation like a project and schedule every one of these single phases. Create a calendar and write down each of these phases on your calendar and do your best to stick to that schedule. Also, make sure that you are accounting for anything that could be happening in your life at that time. Again, the important thing is, make sure that you scheduling everything. I know, life is going to happen. Expect things might happen that might derail you. That's okay. But if you have a schedule and you do your best to stick to that schedule, chances of you meeting your deadline or getting close to meeting your deadline is going to be a lot higher. Otherwise, I promise you, you're going to be in course creation for years. Second takeaway is best work, everything. So, when you're working on, let's say, scripting your course, make sure that your entire course before you move on to the next phase, which is content creation, your slideshow creation, and when you're creating your slides again, make sure you're doing all of the slides before moving into recording, even when you're inside slide creation barstows as well. For example, create the slides and then add content next, and then go look for images to add them. Similarly, when you're recording, record everything before you go back and edit your recordings. Many times, people take this approach of work in one lesson at a time, write scripts one lesson, then to add to content and recorded and then editors before they move on to the next lesson. The problem is when you say this approach, things are going to take so much longer. But when you bash work, since you're working on the same set of tasks and activities, you're going to be in the flow and things will go much smoother and much faster. Third takeaway is when you record your video lessons, make sure you go back and listen to that recording as soon as you're done from beginning to the end. I learned this the hard way when I was working on one of my online courses. I thought, you know what? I've done this so many times, I don't need to go back and listen to every single recording. So, I just kept going. I recorded one video after another until I was done with the entire course. 2 weeks later, when I went back to start editing my videos, I found that there was this loud, annoying humming noise in every single one of my recordings. So, what was happening was my office is next to our garage and we had just purchased this commercial freezer, and the freezer was putting out this humming noise that I couldn't even hear it when I was sitting in my office. But my microphone is so sensitive that it was picking it up. So, I had to go back and re-record my entire course, which ended up adding another 2 weeks to my course creation duration. So do yourself a favor and listen to every recording as soon as you're done with it, and make sure that you're listening to us with your headphones, because without it, you might not pick up those subtle noises, such as like white noise or very subtle background noise. That way, if there is any issues with your equipment or even with your environment, you can pick that up early on before you get too far down recording so many lessons. And this brings me to the last lesson learned. Which wishes go for good? Not perfect. Over the years, working with so many course creators, I can tell you the number one thing that keeps many stuck is the fact that they want, of course, to be perfect. I mean, I get it right. As human beings, we all want to be like, none of us want to be judged. And of course, our courses are an extension of us. And naturally, we want that to be perfect as well. But the truth is, it's unrealistic to have a perfect lesson after lesson after lesson. You're going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes just throwing this one video lesson. You're going to make those mistakes as well. And I'll tell you what, even if you go back and try to re-record it, you're going to make any mistakes. I guarantee you that the important thing to remember is, first of all, your students won't even pick up on those mistakes because they don't even know what the perfect version of that lesson is. And even if they do, they're going to overlook those mistakes. Listen, they are there because they're looking for that outcome that you're promising them with your course. And as long as you're delivering on that promise, that's all that matters to them.